Okay, well, my
Whoop.
name is John Zach. Oh,
Hang on. Hi, welcome again to another session of the 15th annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment virtual conference. I'm Bob Hales, and I'm your moderator. With us today is Jonathan Zaccarini. Did I pronounce that right? Very good. Well, over to you, Jonathan.
thank you. Thank you, Bob. And yes, it's my first time with this conference. Just before I get started, really nice to know who's present here. And you can just share just your name and your current role in education technology. I would really appreciate it. Also, if you don't feel like it too, that's fine. I understand everyone's busy and they're just listening in. That's okay as
Hi, I'm
I'll
Curtis.
start.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Curtis.
Go ahead, Vicki.
Yeah, my name's Vicki Brace, and I'm with Central State University out of Wilberforce. I actually live in Sicily, though,
Oh,
so
nice.
I'm quite a remote worker. And I work with Tony, and I'm the LMS administrator, one of the for our D2L system.
Nice.
I'm Curtis Coates. I'm an instructional designer at Missouri Online, and I live in Denver, Colorado.
I'm Tony Nicoletti. I do work with Vicki. We both, excuse me, work on the same team for Central States Online. And yeah, I live outside of Cleveland, Ohio, so we're remote. And I'm an instructional designer here. I've been here for almost 2 years. So
Great. Anybody else? Okay, it was really nice hearing where everybody's from and their roles because I started getting to education technology probably 3 years ago, and to see like there's so many different roles involved with getting a program running or just even the design of a course. And also, I also I have some polls in my presentation, so if you have your phone nearby, have it ready, and then you can just when the poll comes, you can just text the number, and that's it. Just want to give a heads up too. So I'm going to share my screen. And yeah, hold on. Oops. Okay. So hi everyone. My name is Jonathan Zaccarini. I currently live in New York. I'm a doctoral student at Central Michigan University, and I'm also a digital learning support specialist at Columbia Mailman School of Public Health in their digital learning studio. I help provide support to their online master's program in public health, such as building courses, RISE units, and also being present during their live sessions when to provide Zoom support. So before I begin, I'd like to just take a moment to ask everyone, why do you use social media? And can everyone see what's the text at the top? So you can text 222 333 J Zaccarini 992. And I just want to get a word cloud going about how people see social media and why they use it. You can also, there's a link at the top at paulev.com/jzaccarini992 if you're on a computer as well. Does everyone have access? Was everyone able to access it?
I did try it. Oh, wait. How do you do the number? I did J Zaccarini 992, but how do I incorporate that 22333?
Oh, that's the number. 22333 is the number. And then you'll text it J Zaccarini 992. Oh, networking, career. Okay. Give a couple more minutes if anybody else wants that. Networking? Oh, okay. So one more minute.
Someone can put in connect for me because I'm not figuring it out.
It's okay, no worries.
Okay. My other one was get ideas. Like on Instagram, I
Oh,
follow
I like
different,
that.
um, it's more like a hobby, but I like to decorate. So I follow
Mhm.
designers to get ideas.
That's great. I'm the same. I'll go on YouTube and I'll try to search what people have made, like certain videos about things, and then that will get inspired. Oh, especially with like uh, different LMS features, uh, for like courseworks or Canvas. People make videos and they do like a lot of creative things with it. So I usually go on there and look around. Oh, connect. So essentially, what I was trying to get at when asking about social media is that with uh, online learning, the social component is so important. And that's when I figured out sort of what my interest in looking at YouTube and Facebook as uh, spaces for for engagement. So 2 years ago, I was teaching asynchronous remote courses in communication theory, and I was really interested in how students retain engagement in such an environment when most of their discussions are through discussion boards and they rarely see or hear each other except for the occasional video presentations that they had to make. And I really wanted to understand these types of environments, which would be considered click, link, connect programs, where the environment is composed solely of technology. And I really wanted to examine how social technologies, such as YouTube and Facebook, can be integrated as spaces for asynchronous communication and engagement. So rather than seeing these social technologies as sort of challenging a sort of learning environment, and when I say challenge, I don't mean like, oh, we're gonna like completely change things, but more so looking at these social technologies in terms of how they can complement a program already. And the reason behind that was when I was teaching online, I read very limited sort of access into being creative with the curriculum, the material, the syllabus. And I thought, well, instead of looking at social technologies as a sort of like something that's going to challenge something, it could just be added on. So that's where it comes in with the complementary. So while doing this research, some key trends I found in the literature with technology and student engagement, that there's an increase in student emotional engagement when they're using technology to learn, that it contributes to students building learning communities, and that technology can act as an extension on learning management software, specifically asynchronous discussion boards. So how am I defining engagement? I'm using Aston's theory of involvement. So student involvement is their invested physical and psychological energy. But how do we know if students have invested their psychological energy? What does this look like? What does this mean? And hopefully, if I'm going to have another poll in terms of, I want people to respond like, what does student engagement look like to you? So it's the same number. So if you've already texted, you can keep adding. I really wanted to do this because I found that there are many interpretations in terms of how people perceive student engagement. And I just want to get an idea of what you all thought about it. Questions, yeah. Insights, oh yeah, contributing, asking, definitely. Insight, attentive, yeah. Demonstrated now, yeah. One more minute. Maybe if anybody wants to ask. Okay. I like all of these, and I really in terms of my interpretation of student engagement, what all of these sort of speak to is students making a personal connection. Because if they have a personal connection, if they've made a connection while they're learning, they are contributing, they're inquisitive, they're asking questions, right? They're also insightful in terms of what they share in these discussions. And that's how I interpret engagement, is that students need a personal connection, right? So the course material is applicable to everyday life. They perceive a personal connection with the material. Instructors make the course material relevant. And technology engagement can occur if learners believe they are part of a community or a group that creates this connection. And it's sort of looking at this bridge, sort of extending outside the classroom, which is where these social technologies can be really helpful with contributing to students making a personal connection to the material they're learning. So I want to use this program as an example in terms of how to add social technologies into a program. And I specifically chose this program because it's been documented as being very successful. It's very laid out in terms of what has to be done in terms of educating students, which trying to connect back to my earlier point with how social technologies can be seen as complementary rather than disrupting a sort of program that has already been established and things are done a certain way. So Bell is Building Educated Leaders for Life. It's a nonprofit that provides summer programs to primary school students in low-income urban communities. They're based in Massachusetts. Currently, they are now a software company that provides a learning management software to youth service organizations. But in 2008, their program won a Training Magazine award for the top blended learning and performance project. And 3 of the program's goals were to provide standardized training to staff who work directly with students and cut the cost of training, but also expand the organization's geographic outreach. And I wanted to use this program to demonstrate how YouTube and Facebook and other social technologies can be incorporated that doesn't actually change the actual program itself, but just acts as sort of as an extension. And I just want to show a short clip about the program, so that I can provide context in terms of what this program was about. Just a minute, I'll show them. Can everyone hear the video? Can everyone hear the video? I just want to make sure because
I think I heard it for like a second.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah, I don't hear it.
Nor do
Nothing
I.
here.
You don't hear it?
No.
Okay. I have to always remember that part.
You have to go into your Zoom settings and tell it to allow the audio to play.
Oh, hold on. Sorry about that.
I think it's under your share screen or something like that.
Yeah, I added that. Let's see.
I'm the Vice President of Program at Bell,
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Okay.
or Building Educated Leaders for Life. Bell is a nonprofit organization that partners with schools to expand learning time for students in grade K through 8. We increase the academic achievements, self-confidence, and life opportunities of children living in low-income urban communities. In our programs, we recognize our students as scholars because we believe that with the right support and encouragement, all children can excel. Amina was making the transition from elementary to middle school, and her mom found out that her new school was going to have the Bell Summer Program for free. She enrolled Amina immediately. It was a full-day program that combined academics with fun enrichments and was taught by teachers she knew. She enthusiastically described how Amina grew comfortable with the new school environment, made new friends, met the teachers, and got a head start preparing to learn new skills. In her first year in middle school, Amina was on the honor roll all year long. For Bell, it's all about time. Our school-based programs expand learning time for struggling students during the summer and after school. Bell programs narrow the opportunity gap and boost student achievement. Bell combines small group academic instruction in literacy and math with hands-on enrichment courses. Our scholars experience STEM, the arts, fitness, leadership skills, field trips, and community engagement. We partner with teachers and principals to align learning plans, deliver data-driven instruction, and evaluate scholar outcomes and program quality.
So what I wanted to show about this program was that how they go about training the tutors that eventually end up teaching these primary school students. And within that program, they use a blended online learning program where students have to go online to Moodle and engage in asynchronous discussions about the material they have to learn that they're eventually going to be teaching students. And I thought with Facebook, which is a social media network, can actually be in addition to this program. Because past evidence has shown with Facebook that it contributes to students developing a personal connection with the material. So past studies, so one study from 2014, which was a 200+ intro to sociology course incorporated Facebook. The course material featured in person was then posted in Facebook group with prompts. And they found that students continued class discussions and shared examples on the course material. And then in another study in 2016, they collected survey data from 87 students enrolled in university courses from 15 institutions. And they found that students participating in class Facebook group reported more interest and perceived more value in the course content. So it's looking at that connection of continuing the discussion outside the course. So how would this have been added to the Bell program? So within their training of tutors, they would use the software Hot Potatoes. And essentially Hot Potatoes is a sort of assessment creator. So you can use the program to create quizzes and questions. And they would create the e-learning activities to train the tutors. So how could this be integrated with Facebook? So one possible idea would be to organize a discussion about the course topic in a Facebook group for the tutors. So an instructor can facilitate a discussion by providing a prompt such as compare and contrast similarities and differences between Hot Potatoes and another software. Which would you use in your class and why? Because it helps students need opportunities to continue discussing the material. So again, trying to show how a social technology can act as complementary already to the material that's in place with the training. Now with YouTube, YouTube is slightly different from Facebook. YouTube is user-generated media, which is usually defined as public creative content. Past studies on YouTube, such as this one in 2018, they collected survey data from 800 students at a university in Malaysia. They found that students sought out YouTube videos when faced with academic obstacles. So this already shows us that students are pretty active on YouTube and looking for videos that help explain course material that they don't understand. And then another study in 2017, a total of 150 educational videos on YouTube were selected. They extracted 29,000 comments, and what they found with the most used words in the comment section was that students expressed their views and sentiments in the comment section, and that students were connecting with each other in the comment section as well, which goes back to sort of students making a personal connection with the material. So how would YouTube be able to complement a program such as Bell? Well, in the Bell program, they would actually have professional footage of the classrooms that they would use to teach their tutors. So then one possible idea with YouTube would be to upload this footage on there and to have students sort of watch the videos on YouTube and have them engage in the discussion within the comment section. So again, this is sort of complementing the program as is, but just adding on to it, right? Now, the thing with incorporating YouTube into sort of the courses as sort of these discussions is that the videos have to be uploaded onto YouTube. They have to exist already as they are. You could potentially use YouTube videos and have students make in the comment section, but it gets a bit tricky in terms of confining who is commenting on these videos and knowing which one are students. So in terms of incorporating YouTube, it's really important to be mindful of that the videos being used for students to discuss about are made for them, which can be, difficult. So how do we assess incorporating social technologies into the course as asynchronous discussion? Well, I would say keep it simple and just grade students for participation. Because this is the thing in terms of incorporating such technologies, is that if you're using LMS, such as Canvas or Moodle or Blackboard, that everything is contained within the software. But then how do you grade a student's work that's sort of external to the LMS, given that the discussions are happening outside on these social media platforms? I would try to think of grading students just for participation, giving them credit, or even giving them extra credit for participating in these social media platforms. Because essentially the idea behind it is to make a connection outside the class so that they're continuing to discuss what they're learning about. So in conclusion, essentially looking for ways to integrate social technologies. How do we consider how social technologies can complement an online learning program? And then consider how social technologies can help student engagement. And that's it. So thank you for listening, and I'm open to questions right now. Okay, so let's stop sharing.
I'm wondering if there are any FERPA issues or considerations for using social media platforms. If you could speak to that.
Yeah, so when I was doing the research on the studies, when I was collecting studies on the incorporation of social technologies into the classroom, they had students sign a consent form that everything that is taking place in the social media platform is appropriate to the classroom, and sort of the guidelines for what is that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Because that's the thing, is that when you're incorporating these things, that students are going to might be sharing personal information, they might this into all these privacy issues. So I would have, if you were to consider incorporating social, at least some sort of agreement with the students, they know what they're supposed to be talking about. But that's what I also found in the studies as well, that they had the students do. So
Thank you.
Yeah, I worry about perhaps changes to the platform that, kind of could break access to the content, or, just something, the way, the technologies are. That's my concern. But beyond that, yeah, students are used to using the platforms. You don't have to learn something new.
well, that's the thing with the social media networks are always changing their format. They're always uploading it, but you can still always access content that was previously made before a lot of major changes. I think that's what also is so great about Facebook and YouTube, is that you also have options available to make content very limited to certain people. So that's why with using Facebook, you can use the groups where you have to be invited to join, and also it's just particular to the people in there that are using it. And then with YouTube, you can make the links private or unlisted, so that whoever is shared with that link can only access it. So that, I feel like there are sort of measures in place to keep things more contained and not sort of shaky and like gonna change and stuff like that. Any other questions?
Other questions, comments? Has any of you used social media, or if your faculty have used it to this kind of extent?
I've taught a social media video production class, so yeah, we use a lot in that. Mainly creating YouTube channel, and then sharing videos, discussing videos, doing peer review, and then things like that. I've run into some problems with that in the past, and that the institutions have been hesitant to have a shared YouTube channel that includes student emails and a shared password. So that's been a particular hiccup that we had to work around. But otherwise, I tend to agree. I think students, they kind of live on those spaces anyway. So maybe Facebook less so now, but YouTube certainly.
Yeah, Curtis, I agree with you. When I was with the state system of higher ed in Pennsylvania, that was an issue that got debated a lot among our 14 universities, is, liability, and, and the lawyers for the system, were very conservative in terms of, people using that. And yeah, that alone was the challenge, to try to balance both sides.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've run into about liability and those sorts of things. And FERPA has played into that, which is why I asked the question. I think I hadn't and should have used consent kind of thing to be like, hey, that's a good idea.
Well, the thing is, well, there's so many things in place that, like, especially where I am, we try to, like, in terms of selecting like certain technologies that we could use to incorporate the class, it also gets difficult. We used Yellow Dig just now for one semester, and that was a bit difficult to get implemented too. But Yellow Dig is pretty much very similar to most social media networks, and I think I noticed a difference in students in terms of how their engagement changed, because they're used to that. They're used to communicating in these types of spaces. And I think that's one thing I read in the literature, is that students they don't associate like the LMS as sort of as a social space, because it's very serious, and this is where we're creating knowledge. But maybe in a different space, they might be more open to communicating and talking about what they're learning, because they usually communicate in those spaces as it is. So
You
Yeah,
use Yellow Dig? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
You
he
use
said Yellow Dig.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I've just been familiarizing myself with it, and so it's kind of interesting because it is kind of a social platform like Facebook, and so
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out, okay, how do the students make that transition to it? And it looks relatively simple in all the demo videos, but I was just kind of wondering how it works with your.
We had sort of like an information session at the beginning, where they I think the TAs went through with the students to tell them the basics of how to use it, but we still had issues. Like, students would email saying that they have issues with I think one of the features of Yellow Dig that was a problem was the jumping. So you'll be scrolling down and then it will jump, and then I think that would sort of that would confuse students in the sense of like trying to get back to where they were commenting on, like the post they were commenting on. But
Right.
I do have
So
a question. Oh, sorry. Oh, no, go ahead, Vicki.
Was it group specific or class specific? How did you group the various?
it was very very specific. And we did it in total the students took 4 courses, and we only did it in 1 course, and then we split it into, say, like 3 discussions that happened, say, like after maybe every 2 weeks, and they had a discussion. So it was very sort of controlled, so it wasn't as consistent, like every week they have to go into Yellow Dig. So it was sort of very spread out in terms of, and this specific topic, you're going to have a discussion where you're going to have to incorporate the material and talk about it.
And were they alerted when somebody responded in the group? How do they? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So you can, on Yellow Dig, I think it's on the home page, you get notifications. I believe it's on the side of the navigation bar if someone has commented, and you could see the group activity as well, I think, as a student. I'm trying to remember.
So I was trying to just Google it really quickly or look on YouTube, but does it have a look like Facebook and other social media? So you scroll. So then my question is, do you do you have to change like your sense of what counts as an adequate response? Because on a discussion board, in Blackboard, let's say, being they don't treat that as a social platform and it's more formal, it would lend itself to giving a formal kind of answer with citations and that. So when they're on these other ones, is the tendency, like, then you're just is it just become more of a social connection, or can you really expect that same level of, quality response in terms of it's cited and things like that? Like, what's your end goal become, or can you make it equivalent?
It's sort of wanting that blend of social but serious, because you want the students, if you're incorporating material, we want students to like know that they're including it and they need to make a citation, but at the same time, that social equivalent is to help them expand on the topic a bit more and also make more comparisons, connections with each other's posts. I'll actually have I'll have a better answer for that, because for my dissertation, I'm actually focusing on social presence, and I'm going to be looking at the Yellow Dig post. So I'll have a better answer in terms of what that fulfills more. Is it more of a like a sort of, it's more knowledgeable in the sense students are thinking about the material, or is it more social where it's a bit more I guess laid back? But from looking at most of the posting, I found that there was a good delicate balance between incorporating, well, we read this article, and then students sharing articles too that connected, but also there were many examples of students sharing about their own personal sort of experiences that were relevant to material. So I think it is possible that you can have this sort of nice balance between.
So I think does Slack work like this as well? I think I had a colleague who was using Slack, and they would post a lot of articles in it, and then students might comment on that. But it's interesting because as you're talking, like my model in my mind is, if I'm thinking about Facebook, is how I might post a picture of my family and people comment on it. But now I'm, as you're talking, like trying to shift it to maybe for my daughter's PTO or her school, I'm on a page and it's a little bit social, but you actually get information. And then some of those posts can actually become quite entangled when there's an issue at school, and then people really start, so I think if you model it, like, I think it's actually kind of a neat idea if you model it on maybe a page that you belong to. I think when we wanted to get a dog, like I joined a couple of those kinds of pages, and people would just get really into telling you about that. If you just said, hey, are there any dogs in this area? I don't know what I might ask, or a travel location. But then I think maybe you just have to shift your goal a little bit in terms of the discussion, that you wouldn't want it to have to be so laborious of, I looked this up, here's this, if you want to get that blend. Yeah, I think it's a neat
totally
idea.
agree. And the reason,
and that might not be bad is what I'm saying, because you might still get that information in that way.
Yeah, and that's why I hope with like sort of having guidelines at the beginning, and sort of, look, this is what is expected in your post, and we did that. We had some guidelines, but also offering, it was the first time being used, so we could really have an example. But what could be having shown an example of, look, try to model this post up there, keep it very concise, because that's what I think is really going to come on, is being concise and knowing how much is too much or very little. Because I mean, honestly, if you're in a platform, any platform where you're trying to just discuss material, it's it's a bit not the best thing to read an essay when there's like all these little paragraphs, and I think that is something that has to be sort of emphasized, is trying to keep things very succinct. Because I know I use Slack for my doctoral program, and it gets to the point where it's like I'm reading an essay when we just have to answer a question about something.
Right.
And I think if there's a bit more instructions in place where it's like maybe 3 to 4 sentences for this question, and then that can sort of keep things more contained.
Yeah, I think too, if you think about, like, if somebody were really to analyze how a classroom discussion goes, when somebody just asks a question in class about the content, Or
Yeah.
you just pose a question to the students, like a thought, and then people, it's a little bit bantery to start, but you can, as a facilitator, start,
Yeah.
deepening it. And I think maybe like this idea, along with instructor participation, whereas the thing has become throw up the discussion board, have them put something that shows you they're mostly read the content and they can reply. And
Yeah.
then you grade them and you don't really get involved. But if you kind of actually mirrored it better, maybe you could do it like, I hope this works, because I think it would be great. I hope, like, look forward to seeing what you find out.
Yeah, I think we decided to maybe incorporate Yellow Dig one time for this semester, but it's most of the data is going to be from the last semester, so I'll have more input in terms of if it was really successful for students. Because I think with any online learning, like there has to be some sort of interaction happening in any sort of space. That way students feel like they are connecting with each other. Oh, but I think you had the first question was what Yellow Dig looked like, and it's very similar to Instagram. So you have a box and you can text and sort of edit the text and add emoticons at the bottom and stuff like that. But it's very, in terms of the layout, it's very sort of singular in terms of the post going down like this.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Thank you for the questions so far.
Yeah, I'm thinking about how can you integrate that into the class, because I'm like, it'd be kind of interesting as an instructor. You could say, okay, Monday night, I'm going to be hanging out on Yellow Dig and let's have a conversation about what you read, or what you,
Yeah.
and just have a ongoing conversation, kind of like instant messaging as you go along. That'd be kind of a cool way to use it.
Yeah, I like that as well. I read in some studies that with these types of discussions that the instructor should take a more backseat kind of with it. But I actually think that the instructor should be sort of involved with the discussions, because I think students kind of like seeing the instructor there to make sure things are going well in a way. Have you read any of that?
Yeah, I've read in several studies where, instructor's presence is very important. Yeah. Tony and I've done a lot on instructor engagement and, being present in the class.
Yeah.
Well, and just also with these requirements now for RSI, that just great. I mean, giving them feedback on their discussion would count if you give them fruitful feedback, but it is also a way of getting that by facilitating it. And I think what I was saying too is so I haven't taught in the classroom in a little while, but in the classroom, maybe you let them start out answering your question like a little bit of the surface, and you do pull it back, but then there's other moments where you might say, well, this is going off a little bit. Let's go back to the book. Here on page such and such, Mill, like I taught philosophy, Mill says this. What do you all think about that? So like if you were doing that, then you could be a little more lax in your original, what you're requiring them at the outset, as long as you're using it to kind of get deeper, so you start out like letting them get that social part of it. And then with that end goal of you're going to kind of facilitate it to get it there or something like that. I don't know. I'm always trying to find ways to make it that discussion board less mechanical and perfunctory. And I have not figured it out.
I hate discussion boards, and that was the one thing. You watch the Yellow Dig advertisement, the guy sits down on the couch and he goes, oh gosh, another discussion board, and then Yellow Dig comes up and you're going, oh, that's a little bit different. So
I think that's where the instructor should come in, where because when it's all students together, it can sort of get very I don't want to say derailed, but things sort of get a little sloppy and messy, because I think this is where we get into the ideas of the expert being like the role and what their position is within in terms of learning. But someone who is the expert has to come in and sort of direct and navigate and sort of move things along, so that way it doesn't go all over the place, because that can happen. And I speak from experiences, because I am a student, but I'm also present when I'm with students, so I kind of see where everything's going, you know.
Yeah, and I would think it would be much more interesting for the professor to grade as opposed to, you know, a written discussion board when you have 90 students is just,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
too much.
yeah. I've done that and I just beat myself up and say, oh, why am I having discussion board again? Yes.
Uh, I think even students, if it's when I was teaching online, it was every week they had a discussion board, and I could, like, you can tell their posts kind of get like it starts to go. It's a lot to do that. I think there needs to be sort of a balance where how often they're just in an asynchronous discussion. You
You can
know,
also tell when students are new in, when new students come in because they've got large posts and the students that have been, you know, in for a
Yeah.
while. It's like, yep, I agree. Okay, we're good. Yeah.
uh,
Kind
so
of thing.
true.
Yeah. So really good ideas.
Thank you.
We've struggled with, you know, I've been in online education since like 2008 and Facebook was just really starting its infancy. And we struggled back then and it still seems to be the same conversation as how do we ensure the students are in the right place, the right time? They're not seeing
Yeah.
things shouldn't be, you know, that was always the legal. They could be exposed to things they shouldn't be exposed to, you know, and that was the same way with YouTube too. And so, yeah, it's been discussed since they
Maybe
both,
you'll finally crack that atom, right?
yeah, if you do, you'll be, you know, you'll be on the circuit, that's for sure. Yeah, because everybody's just debated that since the beginning of it. So,
I think maybe there's two ways to well, there's probably more than two ways, but I could think of a couple ways to go are just sort of to give up on them as establishing a real social connection and treat it as like an assignment that you're always looking also for ways to make sure they've read and reviewed the materials. So then you kind of almost fall back on that. And you're like, if they say something to the other students that is more than I agree, I'll give them like and then I keep whittling the points down more and more to what the reply is worth. Or you go in this other direction and you let it get that social interaction, but you narrow your expectations about how pithy it's going to be, in terms of the content, while still it's an art, like while still trying to have some expectation that this shows me you're engaged in the actual material of the course or.
That's why I thought like YouTube more so than Facebook is that the visual media element. I feel like that's helpful for students if they need to make that sort of connection and using evidence to be like, well, in the video, this was done, this was said. And I thought that would always be helpful because when I was teaching online students, when they had to make their video presentations, I did notice a bit of a change in terms of engagement because some students they're a bit more receptive to videos and they pick up information better.
most definitely. I mean, as soon as we get an issue, it's like, oh, what's on YouTube? Start typing it in. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. So, well, very interesting.
Well, thank you. And it was really nice meeting everybody.
We look forward to reading your paper.
I hope so.
Now that you've been on the Friday afternoon slot, Bob, you owe him like the early, when he comes with his results, like next time he's here, he should get like an early.
Yeah, exactly.
Prime time.
I specifically chose this slot. I was like,
Oh,
I'll just
did
go
you?
at the
Okay.
end. I'll just go at the end.
We choose our slots. Yeah. But next time, go a little earlier so everybody will see. Yeah, because it'll be interesting, especially what you find out about,
Yeah.
and how.
Because that will be more concrete. Yeah.
Mhm.
Good luck with your
Thank you.
finishing your dissertation.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck with that. So I feel closure. Jonathan, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
It really is nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Likewise. Is there anything else I have to do or I just I go? That's it?
Nope. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
one more session to go. So hopefully see
have a good night,
you about the
everybody.
hour.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.